Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Friday, March 26th, 2021. And our top story today, estate planning basics and why you need an estate plan. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Sabrina Winters. She's an attorney at law specializing in estate planning, wills, trusts, you name it. Sabrina's does it and a lot more. Sabrina, thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And I really wanted to connect with you. We've had your colleague and friend, Julie Hall, on talking about the estate and managing an estate and doing the best thing on behalf of the family. But I really wanted to get into the nuts and bolts of estate planning. And I guess we should qualify everything that, you reside in the great state of North Carolina. So some of this may be applicable at the state level to North Carolina, but let's talk about some general themes. Let's start with estate planning in general. How would you define estate planning?
So estate planning, I like to actually compare it to life insurance, homeowners insurance, and car insurance. Those things protect the what if. What if I have a flood? What if I have a car accident? Well, estate planning is very similar to insurance, but in addition to protecting the what if, it protects the when. When you pass away, what will happen? So a lot of people think, well, it's just a will or a trust that I need and I'm done, but it's not. It's all of those other documents. It's who's going to manage your medical decisions if you can't do it. What about end of life planning? Or what about who's going to manage your assets? It's all of those documents that really encompasses estate planning.
Now, Sabrina, it's not just for the uber wealthy. It's for really anybody, because there are, in talking to Julie Hall, there's things like probate. So if you don't make these decisions based on the state you live in, there are certain rules that govern when someone passes away and what to do with their property. So what we're talking about here applies to somebody whether they earn $70,000 or $40,000 a year and have less than $1 million in assets, right, to even the uber wealthy as well.
Exactly. Everybody has different issues, fears, and concerns, and those change as we change life stages. As we get older, as we have more kids, we become empty nesters, we lose spouses. Every stage has to be concerned with a variety of different things. And that's why estate planning is more of an evolving estate plan. It's not, I've done it and I've forgotten about it. Anything could happen to anybody walking out of the house, walking to the office, or just being in the grocery store. Death happens to everybody, and so does illness. So everybody really needs to consider that, regardless of what stage, regardless of their health, and certainly regardless of what their estate value is.
Julie, is there an age that you should start considering estate planning? I'm sure that there are people who are just getting out of college, or at least maybe this spring, going to go onto their first job. Maybe they'll get married in the next 5 to 10 years. Yep. When should someone start planning their estate?
So initially in North Carolina, as long as you are 18 or older, you can get these documents done, a healthcare power of attorney and a financial power of attorney, those kinds of documents. And of course, a will. They're going to start working, when they're in college and they have a checking account. Parents lose the right to control anything their kids have when they're 18. So it's really important when you send them off to college that they've got these documents in place. Certainly when you get married, when you have kids, when you have a divorce, anybody that has a life needs to get these done. And it's important to remember too, as well, that you can't get these documents done if you lose capacity. So if you have a car accident tomorrow and you're disabled mentally, you may not be able to put these in writing anymore. And then your family is forced to do a guardianship at the court to figure out who's going to manage your affairs every day for your assets, as well as your medical decisions. And that's certainly not something you want family to have to go through. And on the opposite end, if you don't have a will or a trust in place, your state, like North Carolina, likely has a statute that says, well, you didn't have a will, you didn't have a trust. Here's who we say gets your stuff. Here's how they will get it. And your state is not going to care about how money manageable your children are, or how spendthrift your spouse may be, or if you have a disabled beneficiary. They don't care about any of that. So you need to make sure that you're making the decisions in writing. Don't leave it up to your state.
Yeah. And to your point, death comes to all of us at some time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, death and taxes are the absolutes in life. Where do we start? Because you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned a will. You mentioned possibly a trust. If I'm a newbie to this, or say I just got married, where would I start? What document would be the best place to start? Or let me say it this way. When you walk a client through the process, where do you first start?
So on my initial calls, I work fairly differently than some other attorneys. I'm really trying to get to know my clients on our first meeting. I want to know, what are you afraid of? What made you pick up the phone and call somebody like me to help you? Or why did you ask for a referral? Fears, concerns, issues, those are all the things I'm trying to understand from my clients from the moment that we're talking together. If they're married, I'm speaking to both of them. If they are single or widowed, of course, I'm speaking to only one of them. Based on their fears and their concerns and their ultimate goals, that's how I suggest the plan that's right for them. It's not what I would have done for them. It's not what somebody told them that they should do. It's all based on, here are your fears and concerns, and this is the plan that's going to make those better. This is what's going to give you peace of mind and make life easier for your family, either during a time of your illness or certainly after you pass away, and how they're settling the estate. And all of my clients, they don't have to choose their documents. They will always have a comprehensive plan, which in my mind is the only way to help any estate planning client. A la carting is bad. Good for restaurants, good for ordering online, not good for estate planning clients. You could get sick before you pass away. And because the attorney only gave you a will, now your family's going to court because there isn't anybody allowed that can make those medical decisions for you. So my clients get a plan: healthcare power, living will, financial power of attorney, just to name a few of the advanced care directives that come with a properly drafted estate plan.
Sabrina, this is a living and breathing document. Just listen to you talk about this. And so as you go through life's ups and downs, changes, you mentioned children, you mentioned having a spouse, or even the loss of a spouse or a divorce. This document, or this comprehensive set of documents, needs to change over time. And so when, we used to have a joke in the 401k, not a joke, but when you got your 401k statement, there'd be a little letter or a note underneath that said, did you have a life-changing event? You want to update your beneficiaries.
Right.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. If you have a life-changing event, you need to update your estate plan and all the documents that are in that.
Exactly, you do. So I see a lot of parents forget to update their plans after they've had more children. So the one plan is only taking care of their firstborn. When you get a divorce, you absolutely have to change your will and your other documents. I'm going to assume that when you are divorced, there is probably a reason you don't want your ex to be making medical decisions for you and or helping you as your agent on your financial power of attorney. So those are important as you are in the middle of separation to get those updated, as long as your attorney's putting the right language in there. A divorce, somebody has passed away, even if it's not your spouse, but it could be a beneficiary. You may want to revisit how things are getting distributed. Maybe a remarriage of one of your children, and you were not a big fan of the new spouse. There are things that you can consider adding or amending in your will or your trust to alleviate those concerns for that new in-law that you don't care for too much. And that happens a lot.
Yeah, and if you don't do it right, it could lead to the breakup of a family. I'm laughing, it's not really funny, but it has and can lead to a breakup of a family. Sabrina, I want to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more with Sabrina and learn more about estate planning. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score, a credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Sabrina Winter. She's an attorney at law specializing in estate planning. Sabrina, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Of course. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a fascinating conversation. I think a lot of people don't think about this. And I think if you're a young person, we all think we're invulnerable when we're younger and we don't take the steps possible. But I have to admit, I have to think that there have been some really bad circumstances that you've heard about because people didn't take the right steps to plan.
Sure, I have. Recently I had somebody call and her husband passed away tragically at a very young age. They have a 1 and a 2-year-old. Nothing in writing, and he has other children from another marriage, and parents are alive, and people are fighting. It was a real big mess, and it was all because there wasn't anything in writing. So, and I've seen it on the opposite end, where it is a widow who left assets to one child, thinking that she was doing the right thing, but accidentally, without knowing, had disinherited her other 4 children, and it was a sizable estate and amount in that account. So, getting the proper guidance is what's important. It's not just understanding what you need and getting the right documents in place, but it's working with advisors and with CPAs. I'm an estate planning attorney who is a very small part of that circle of help that every client needs. Advisors need to understand that I need their help to change beneficiary designations or to make an owner on the account a trust now. And I need the CPAs to understand we're not changing anything tax-wise. Everything's going to happen the same way it always has. So major things that happen really are because no one understood that they had to be guided somewhere. Many of my calls originate from somebody told me that I really needed to get this done, but I really don't know why. Or they saw something happen either to somebody immediately close to them or they heard a story. Those are the two biggest reasons people call. And once they do, then of course, using me, they're going to be educated and they'll understand. But there needs to be that outside life event that's causing them, really to call and pick up the phone.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're watching this program and they get the light bulb goes off and said, "Hey, I need to do that. Let me write down a note to make a phone call." It sounds to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but communication is a huge part of this, because if you're writing this plan, not only are you communicating with the other advisors around the table, the FA, the financial advisor, the CPA, but if you are the person of whom the estate planning is being written about, you want to communicate with your other family members so there are no surprises, and that that somebody, for example, likes that 18th century rug that's on the floor, or the water rower that you were using, right? I mean, you want to make sure that you are openly communicating with people.
Yeah, I agree. All of my conversations with my clients, like I said earlier, I need to find out, what are your fears, what are your concerns, and part of those concerns are, what did the kids like? Do they get along with each other? Will they get along with each other after you pass? What about with you and your spouse? Does everybody get along? If you're not naming all of the children to make a medical decision in some order, it's important that everybody understands why that's happening. At the very least, they need to tell the child or that person they've named to make medical decisions, or even to settle their estate. Hey, by the way, I'm going to name you here. Do you want the job? I mean, that's a legitimate question. I've done my parents' estate plan. I have 2 other siblings. I'm very last in making any medical decision. And I was very honest with that, even though I created the plans. I will do everything with their estate, with all their finances. Don't call me to make an end of life decision. I'm not doing it. So everybody knows that it's all 3 of us making that decision. Don't call on me. And that is an amazing gift to give to somebody. You don't want to know then that they can't step up to do that for you. You want to know it while you're doing the plan. So I always encourage my clients, please talk to the people that you're naming. You don't have to divulge too much, but you got to ask them if they're okay with that. Making everyday medical decisions are very different than telling the physician to stop trying to save your life. And that's a big deal for some, like it is for me. And we just made other arrangements. So yes, open communication from beginning to end. Now, when it comes to assets, that's a little bit different. Not all families feel comfortable in sharing all of their assets, even with their kids that they've named to help them settle their estates. They do want to keep a little bit of privacy. So I encourage my clients, just make sure that you keep a running list. Every year you're updating it of all of your assets. Whoever that child or person is that is settling your estate, then is going to open up the nice binder we gave you and is going to know exactly who to call, exactly where your assets are, and there's not going to be any issues between your estate and them having, being able to help you properly. So be as open as you want, knowing that the more open you are, the better off it is, if that's your comfort level. Every client is different.
Sabrina, where do you go to find an estate attorney? You can ask around, you can ask an advisor. Is there an association for estate planning?
So I always tell clients, I always ask them, how did you find me? Either Google search is great. And when you're doing a Google search, I would definitely read the Google reviews for the business. And I would definitely go to avo.com, which is avvo.com. Attorneys can claim their site on there, and we cannot delete negative reviews. There's a negative review, it stays there. We can't do anything about it. Those are always the 2 favorites of mine to make sure that you're vetting your attorneys properly. Of course, ask family and friends who they've used. You will hear negative reviews way quicker than you'll hear positive comments about something. So you need to ask. And of course, go online. Make sure that you visit the lawyer's website. Make sure that they are exclusively estate planning and probate. I personally think it's dangerous to use somebody who's a general practitioner. In my book, you can't be good at everything. And with estate planning and probate, you have to be pretty amazing to be able to handle all of those particulars that come along with it. Financial advisors are great. CPAs are great. If you have somebody that is in rehab at a senior center, the social worker there or the discharge nurse, they're a perfect referral source as well, because they have to deal a lot with attorneys that help the elderly, and which I am one of. And finally, I would check NALA.com. Attorneys who help elderly clients, especially with estate planning, will be listed on there. So you get more of a focused, direct type of attorney that you'll need.
Yeah, really good information. Well, Sabrina, we're going to leave it there. Really appreciate you coming on the program. Obviously, we just started scratching the surface of what is a very large topic. We appreciate you coming on. We look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
I appreciate your time and having me on. Thank you so much.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our newsletter, The Morning Pulse, and of course, our website. We're back again tomorrow where we take a look back at some of our best segments for the week, and we have a very special guest. You can tune in to BRN Weekly. So until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired of the same old stuff.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.